We're telling tales of the music we grew up with. That's the 70s plus more. So crank it up. Let's set the tone. It's more than music, it's the life we own. Take it away, fat man.
Welcome everybody to another exciting episode of Mick and the Fat Man with whoever that sings that. I don't know who sings that, but anyway, thank you for welcoming us so beautifully.
It's another wonderful Apple creation, I think.
It's either Apple or it's just AI. You know, AI is everything now. It's just one of the AI things.
Yeah.
Because AI is naturally making intro music for us without us even asking.
It did that, yeah, because I remember just asking for steak, egg, and banana fritter. And what I got was an intro by Bryan Adams.
I said, I have a steak, egg, and banana fritter.
Now, if you want to know why we're cracking up, ladies and gentlemen, we cannot play it, nor can we put it on the playlist, but go and have a listen to Ad Nauseam by Derek and Clive. I think we mentioned it on an earlier episode. It is probably one of the most offensive albums you could ever listen to, including pedophilia, homosexuality, general smut,
kill the whales,
yeah,
you know, anything that's not everything that would upset the sensitivities of any modern anybody in general. It's there. It's there on, and it's available on Spotify, I do believe.
It is too.
And you can listen to it.
That's right.
It's just insane. It's Peter Cook and Dudley Moore just being gross.
Hissed as,
and just talking utter shit. And it's brilliant. Anyway, Mick, happy rock and roll to you, sir. And how are you travelling?
Mate, I'm right on top of the game, feeling great, yeah, because we just got back from our trip.
And here we are, because we didn't get quite enough sun, sea and surf. We're sitting outside in the beautiful South Coast Mick and the Fat Man studios, enjoying this beautiful sunshine, the beautiful autumn sunshine in Australia.
'Tis indeed lovely.
'Tis indeed.
Not a cloud in the sky, except for that one over there. Get away.
Get out of here, you bastard. But in general, beautiful turquoise blue sky. We're looking over the beautiful Pacific Ocean. What more could you want? A plane flying over.
Yeah. I like the way that they do mute their engine noise as they go over. That's very considerate of them.
Just for us. Now, as you mentioned, we did just get back from Bali, and what a raucous time we had.
Raucous, indeed.
Raucous.
It was raucous on some occasions, yes.
Oh, once.
Yeah. And it's fast becoming an annual event, the Mick and the Fat Man Talking Music on the Beach in Bali event.
And the other thing was that we went back to your namesake's bar, Michael's bar.
Yes.
And it was great. And what was there waiting for us on our arrival? The Mick and the Fat Man chairs.
Monogram chairs.
Exclusively monogrammed with, I do believe, sponsored Textacolour pens.
Sharpies, sponsored by Donald Trump.
And I couldn't believe it. We got there. There were the chairs. Because he gave them to us last year. They were brand new. He got them out of the plastic, basically, gave us brand new chairs, put our names on the back, and they were still there. So we plonked ourselves down and ordered a drink, and hallelujah, brothers and sisters, Michael was happy.
That's right. And well,
both
Michaels were happy. So 5 out of 10 days we sat on the beach at Legian having a few bintangs on monogram plastic Siebel type chairs.
Yep. Ordered a couple of spring rolls. That was great.
Made on the spot for us.
Made on the spot. And it was really nice. The weather was lovely. Did we get any rain? I think we...
Oh, we did one day, yeah.
Oh, that's right. We had one rain.
It filled the lane up about a foot deep.
Yeah, that's right. In the morning we had rain till about 9 o'clock. Well, 8 I think it was only like 8 o'clock we got rain till.
Yeah.
It did require us to walk through a bit of river or water. And the other thing that was great about the stay, that because Mick sort of said, "Oh, this is the day," and I said, "Yeah, right, that'll do." He organised it in Nuriyupta time. What was it called? What's the... What was the festival that was on?
Oh, Nyepi Day.
Nyepi
for
Day.
heaven's sake.
Nyepi
Yeah,
Day.
bit more careful scheduling next year.
We arrived at the airport, being met by our driver, who was also the fellow who was looking after the apartment we were staying in. And the first thing he said was, "You've got Nyepi Day coming up." And I went, "What?" And Mick goes, "Oh yeah, I've heard about that. I've never been here when Nyepi Day's been on, and I've got no idea what you're fucking talking about." And he says, "You'll need to get some groceries." Oh, what are you talking about? And what happens on Nyepi Day, Mick?
Nothing.
Nothing.
Absolutely
Not
nothing.
a
No
sausage.
noise, no music, no dancing.
So it's a thing in Bali where essentially the entire island shuts down. The airport closes. All the restaurants close. Everything closes. And the history behind it is that the island was quiet so that evil spirits wouldn't think anybody was there, so they would go away. And
It's got some merit when you think about it.
It does. It makes sense. And we were there. But what happens really on Nyepi Day is while the day of silence occurs, the day before Nyepi Day, everything starts shutting down. So by midday, 90% of the place is shut down. And then the day after Nyepi Day, half the island is still shut by the midday as well. So, in fact, Nyepi Day really is 2 days.
Oh, it's unreal.
And the other thing we learned about was Ogu Ogu Day. Ogu?
Something that'll do.
Ogu Ogu Day, where there's where they make massive
The parades.
sculptures and
Yes.
parades. Basically, everybody parades down the street. So the main street of Legian was just shut as this massive parade with massive sculptures that they create to once again ward off the spirits. And that's the day, 2 days before Nyepi Day, and there was even a day before Ogu Ogu Day, which there was a parade going down the street as well.
Malasti Day.
Malasti Day, that's right. And on it went. And the other thing was, we were walking out of the villa where we were staying, and I walked past this guy who did money changing, and I went up and said, "When's Oogie Oogie Day? What happens on Oogie Oogie Day?" He goes, "What?" I said, "Oogie Oogie Day. You know, Oogie." I don't. And he looked at me as if I had three heads. He goes, "I got no idea what you're talking about." Like Indonesian guy. And I said, "Oogie Oogie." I said, "Oogie." Oh, Ogu Ogu. and he cracked up. He thought, "You fucking idiot," which I was. And it was great fun.
But anyone who's been to Southeast Asia, pretty much any country, would know that the streets are a mess of telegraph and power wires, right?
Yes.
Going from one telegraph pole to the other, crossing the road.
Hundreds and hundreds of them.
And so with all of the sculptures that you were talking about, I thought it was hilarious that they had blokes walking along the side beside each of the sculptures with 4 and 5 metre poles with like a trident on the top of it to lift the wires so that the sculptures could parade down the street.
And it was even we were at a restaurant, and they actually had one of the celebrations that was occurring back down towards Kuta, and walking along was the big parade with all the big spirits being walked down, and right behind the man with the wire pusher up,
Wire lifter, yes.
which was really it was great. So it was a common thing as the wires were lifted up to let the statues through.
Absolutely. I mean, a real cultural eye-opening.
It was, and we had a great time. Even went to places where both of us had never been before. We got up into the mountains and
The white Buddha.
the sleeping Buddha or the lying Buddha, whatever it was called. They had to drive bloody hundreds of miles up into the mountains to find it. It was great.
Yeah, it was great. I was talking to my sister the other day, and I said, because I haven't spoken to her for a couple of decades or something, and I said, "Oh, I love going to Bali," and she said, "Why?" And everything we're talking about here is exactly why. It's a very immersive experience.
It is, and we had some great culinary experiences as well. And I mean, you don't have in general. You sort of go to your steak and 3 veg equivalent of Indonesian restaurants, which is more your nasi goreng, mee goreng, spring rolls, lumpia, those sorts of things. But they also have some really high quality restaurants there as well, which we indulge in as well.
Superb.
And you'll just have to put up with the aircraft flying overhead. Oh, that's a helicopter.
It's a helicopter. Oh, it's got US markings on it.
Uh-oh.
Oh, no. Are they missiles underneath? They've gone past us.
Our mate. Yeah, and so, and we even indulged in a bit of local entertainment. There was some fun entertainment. We went to Frankie's. That was a good little restaurant, wasn't it?
It was indeed. And like most of the restaurants, open air and open to the street.
Yeah, it was great. And couple of performers there who were knocking out a few tunes.
Well, again, like anywhere in Southeast Asia, it's phonetically miming the songs, with no real understanding of what they are. And we thought, oh, here we go, a bit of music. Hope it's not too loud and hope it's not too intrusive. Did it knock our socks off or what?
I know, it was bizarre. And in fact, the interesting thing is that they're really good musos. Like they really were quite good. Not all of them were, but this two guys we did see were very good.
They were, absolutely. And we're sitting there having as you do a couple of bintangs and crispy skinned salmon and everything like that, and I heard this guitar note or the guitar run, and I thought, nah, it's obviously too many bintangs. And I listened some more, and it was the guitar intro, the picked intro to "Wish You Were Here" by Pink Floyd, David Gilmour's intro. And I thought, you've got to be kidding me.
In Indonesia, in Bali, a bit of Pink Floyd turned out by a couple of guys, Indonesian guys, just sitting there with their guitars. It was
surreal. It
really was surreal, because I think before that they'd played a country and western sort of Johnny Cash song. I think
they played Ring of Fire.
Ring of Fire, that's right.
But it didn't just stop there. They did, like they'd listen to our playlists. They played "To Love Somebody" by the Bee Gees. Nick Cave and Shane McGowan's "What a Wonderful World." I know that somebody else did it originally, but that's the one that I like. Radiohead's "Creep."
Yep.
With the correct words.
Yes, that's right.
Love Is All Around Us by the Troggs from 1966. If you've seen Love Actually, you'd know the song.
I just found it amazing that they were just churning out these types of songs.
The whole play thing, normally it's, that's interesting. Yeah, let's go back to eating and drinking. But this was we couldn't stop laughing at the unexpectedness of it all.
And the thing I found amusing was we're sitting there eating our meal, the music's playing, and the television screen up on behind the bar had images of African animals eating other animals. It was like hippos chowing down on an alligator, lions eating impalas. It was bizarre.
Then they went to Antarctica and those orcas make a meal out of the bloody seals, don't they?
It was amazing watching the orcas. I don't even know where they found all this footage from, but it was like it went on for quite a while. Orcas there doing in packs, attacking seals, attacking. Washing seals off an iceberg.
Unbelievable, wasn't it?
Like they all come rushing in and just create this huge bow wave and wash a seal off the iceberg and eat it.
That's right. Rock the iceberg like it's a boat.
It was
unbelievable.
Anyway, so as we were eating, so were the animals.
Yeah, absolutely.
Anyway, a good time away, and we will endeavour to get there again next year for another exciting episode of Mick and the Fat Man in Indonesia.
Yeah, we'll give you plenty of advance notice so you can book in the low season. It'll only cost you about $5. It'll be fine.
It is actually cheap at that time of year by comparison.
Extraordinarily cheap,
and there's not
a lot of fun,
and not that many people there. Well. No, there isn't that many people there, is there? Really, the hotels are half full.
You can get a really good deal, and as we do.
Yeah, you can get a really good deal, and we had a nice little villa with our own little pool. Used to laze around in the pool. Mick,
especially on Nyepi Day.
Oh, Mick couldn't get Mick out of there. He loves the bloody pool. He's in there all the time in the nud.
There's an image that it doesn't even work well on radio.
Anyway. What else?
One of the ideas we came up with while we were over there.
Yes. What was that?
Well, we were talking about doing an episode either later in the year or early next year in season 7 about wedding songs and other disasters. Because we're reading all this stuff online about people who play the most extraordinary songs at weddings and funerals.
Yes, that's right. Yeah. That's right. And people who use... Well, in fact, you originally were talking about how people use songs in ads that were just all
big
wrong.
Bugbear.
And then we went on to weddings and all the rest of it as well.
So we decided that we'd give you an opportunity to help us with the content. Now, the last listener input for content was Nick Farmer, who gave us Nick Lowe.
Yeah, that's right.
And we actually had a bit of a joke. I went back and was reviewing some of our old episodes, and we had a joke that Nick Farmer only picked Nick Lowe because he shares a surname with him, shares a first name with him, and away we go. So what we would like to do is give you another opportunity to help us with content for the show. If you've got any thoughts about dreadful wedding songs that you've heard, even worse, dreadful funeral songs, or other songs for special events, now they're as common as muck. You can find them easily. So why don't you send us your experiences? We've got a few. And later on in the year, or early next year, we'll throw in an episode of wedding songs and other disasters and go from there, eh?
That's it.
Send us an email, put something on Facebook.
All right, that sounds fantastic, sir. Now, what I've travelled down here today to do this, down the South Coast, and I'm a little bit annoyed because we've gone and we're out the back looking over the beautiful Pacific Ocean, but down on the beach is the bag. And I don't know why the Globite travel bag is down on the beach and not up here beside us. Nick, you're going to have to scurry down there and get it, and it's covered in sand. What's the story?
Well, I think the Lux interior for the Globite travel bag is actually sand resistant, so I'm not too worried about any potential damage to the equipment.
Right. Okay, fair enough.
But it should be good, and it's going to be a bugger of a thing to drag back up from the beach. I think one of those coastal winds grabbed it. Blew it down almost to the waterline, but it hasn't quite reached the ocean yet.
Good news. There's a surf lifesaver just brought it up for you. So
that was good.
Thanks, mate.
Yeah,
good on you.
Good on you, pal.
Thanks, buddy. All right, get it up here and let's get the sucker open, okay?
I think so. Right.
Let's see.
Can you get the latches?
Yeah, I'll get a couple. I've got a couple. Can you grab those one over there?
Okay, got it.
Just get this one.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah.
And I think there's one round the back there. Just
yeah.
Get. Yeah. There we go. All right. Get her open. What have we got for us? What do you got for us this week, mate?
Mate, I think that back in 1972, a band was formed in our 7th or 8th state, New Zealand.
Yes.
By the name of Split Enz, who were, back then, they were regarded as the first New Zealand band to achieve recognition outside of New Zealand, Australia. Australiana.
Australiana.
Or Oceania, whatever.
Oceania. They certainly weren't Australiana by any stretch of the imagination.
Correct, exactly. They were renowned for the theatrics and edginess of their performance. As well, they were really top-grade musicians, which was fantastic. And so they brought this musicality to rock and roll. Few Australians would not be aware of them. They've been, as we joked with our episode a long time ago about Crowded House, they've been adopted by Australia.
Yes.
So therefore, they're just an Australian band with funny accents.
Adoption isn't really the right word. It's claim. We claim them. we basically deride anything that we don't like from New Zealand and claim it as our own, anything we do like. So
that's reasonable.
It's reasonable. Yeah. They are, and there's nothing they can do about it, really.
There's nothing they can do about it. No.
Nothing.
No, because half of them are here anyway. So
the vast majority of the island is actually here in the eastern suburbs of Sydney. So no point worrying about them.
Absolutely, and so I think these bands coming over here, claiming to be Australian, are doing them a service. Doing them a big service.
Yeah. Because Australia, they're an Aussie band as opposed to a Kiwi band. I mean, no one knows what a Kiwi is. It's just It's just an animal with a big long beak that you theoretically can use to play records,
What? A turntable bird, a stylus bird.
The only reason I saw that is because when I was in Auckland, they have T-shirts with a Kiwi on the T-shirt with it on playing a record.
Oh no! Excellent stuff.
Anyway, that's great news, Mick. Thank you very much, and we'll get on to that in just a few moments. But before we do, I think we need to just check out what is going on with...
Rock news. Everybody's talking about rock news. The fat man is bringing all the news and all the views. Rock news. It's rock news.
That's right, folks. Rock news. And I know that anybody who is anybody in the rock and roll industry will have been hanging out for Coachella 2026. I know Mick was. He was searching everywhere to see what was happening. And I've had a little bit of a look. We won't do too much on Coachella, but I did want to talk about Teddy Swims. I mean, we love Teddy Swims, don't we? We love his vibrant outfits, his baggy shorts, his big work boots that he wears, and colourful. And his Coachella set, he introduced a whole bunch of other stars. And one of those stars was, in fact, David Lee Roth.
Teddy Swims is one of the best names ever. Everybody's saying it all around in the city here. Are visitors from Germany, Holland, Japan, China, and they all know that name.
Teddy Swims.
Oh, yeah. Something like Greenberg.
What if you'd been Dave Roth?
Full name is David Lee Roth.
Yes.
It's an anagram.
It stands for
The devil.
Wow.
I had a traumatic birth. I was backwards in the corner. I was hyperactive. My grandfather, who was a 70-hour-a-week physician, graduated medical school in 1920.
That's far too much information that you ever wanted to know about David Lee
Far more
Roth.
than I did, yes.
Or his family. So that was fantastic news to hear about that. And the other thing that, the other one that was there who had a massive, massive concert, massive, it was all over the internet, all over everywhere, was in fact your favourite, Mick. Beebe Boy.
The Beebster.
He was there. Let's have a listen.
So Justin Bieber finished headlining week 1 of Coachella. And here's everything that happened. Let's get into it. Justin opens the show with All I Can Take. The first half of the set were songs from Swag 1 and Swag 2. And at the corner of his set was a laptop with all the YouTube comments. He completed the first half, and then performed Stay with the Kid Leroy. They were just running around stage. And look at this crowd. And then Justin did his acoustic set. And he raps with Everything Hallelujah, and gets emotional at the end. You can tell how grateful he is. And Justin sat down at his computer, went on YouTube, typed in Baby, and started performing Baby. That was so iconic.
How interesting was that?
I wish I was there. No, I'm glad I was here.
I was just listening to this guy and I got no idea what this fucking idiot's on about. How it's all great. But anyway, I did hear that Justin Bieber, in fact, karaoke'd to his own music. So he played his hit from, how long ago was it, 20 years ago?
Something, yeah.
Yeah, and so he sang along with it live. So he had it playing behind him on the screen with the actual music and the sing, and he sang along with that. People loved it. He was loved. He was truly loved. Massive set, looked fantastic. People were there. Wish you had been there. Oh my God! And yeah, so if you weren't there with Justin Bieber, have a look on the internet, everybody. Have a look on YouTube. There is so much Justin Bieber action. You will be crazy if you don't go looking.
Oh, you'd be crazy if you do, for that matter. So it's a crazy outcome, whatever you do.
Fantastic stuff. Anyway, Mick, let's move on. That's enough of Coachella.
Oh dear, Coachella.
I mean, it's funny, you know. Coachella has in fact been around for over 20 years.
Good
Every
heavens.
year, it's a yearly concert. I've never heard of it until a few years ago when we started covering some of the fashion statements that were coming out of Coachella, how people would be going to Coachella,
Unreal.
but not going. Remember that? They were going to Coachella, but not going to Coachella.
Yes, yes.
Oh.
Merely to be seen and then go home.
Oh, anyway. So we'll move on. 1,001 albums you must hear before you die, Robert Dimery, page 366. This was a random choice, Mick, total random choice. The artist, the Penguin Cafe Orchestra. the album, music from the Penguin Cafe, producer Simon Jeffs, Steve Nighy. Cover art was Emily Young. Running time 45 minutes. Chart success, nil. And it was in fact released on ENZSO's label in 1976.
Yep.
And Simon Jeffs is sort of regarded as a bit of a Eno-like experimental kind of a guy, way ahead of his time. I will just play a little bit. This isn't from the album actually, but he was more. This is what he was absolutely famous for, like really famous for, and that is music for a found harmonium. Anyway, music for a found harmonium. Yeah, so look, how do we describe this album? It's been described as challenging as it is rewarding. Simon Jeffs says that the idea for the album came to him in a vision after eating some bad fish in France. This is true. 1972, I was in southern France. I had eaten some bad fish and was and as a consequence was rather ill. I had a strange recurring vision. There before me was a concrete building like a hotel or a council block. I could see people in each of the rooms, every one of them preoccupied. A person looked into a mirror. A couple were making love endlessly. A composer was listening to music through earphones in silence. What do you reckon?
I think it's a trend that really should have caught on big. You should have, eat bad fish. Make a record.
Make a record.
Not delusional, delirious. I think that's great. I mean, Prince tried. He had a song called Delirious, but I love this album. This is, and I think it's appropriate that it was released on Eno's obscure label.
Yes.
Because it is pretty obscure.
It is indeed.
Yeah. Simon Jeffs, Steve Nighy, who helped produce, did a lot of the stuff with the New Romantics in the mid-'70s in London. So so he's got some experience of style over substance.
Sure.
Yeah, like... I think he was ahead. Sorry,
I was just going to say no. Do go on. But the only thing I was going to say, the other thing that I love about this album is the centerpiece. The centerpiece song is the sound of someone you love who's going away and it doesn't matter.
Yeah. That's one of the best song titles I've ever heard. That's fantastic. Like, that song in particular is really nice. It's, like much of the work on this album, like Eno, it's on Eno's label, obviously. It's a thematic exercise all the way through. A repetition of a coda of music. If you squint this particular song, if you squint and look at it sideways before it sees you looking at it, it seems to trace the decline and finish of a love affair. Or not. That I think someone was eating bad fish when they came up with that description. But nonetheless, I really do like the sound and the feel.
It's like quantum physics, really, isn't it?
It's a bit like, did it really happen?
It doesn't happen unless it's observed.
That's right. Look, if you're the type that listens to music only as a series of songs between 3 and 8 minutes long, you're going to hate this album.
You will.
Yeah, absolutely. However, look, if you're more of a bowerbird with your listening experience, give it a go. Listen to it once. The songs are really nice. We've talked in recent episodes about ambient music. When we talked about Brian Eno, for instance, we talked about ambient music, and you quite rudely had a go at me about, music's got to be loud enough to listen to, and I think you can play this one a little bit louder. It's not just put it under your level of hearing and it'll be in the background and might not offend you too much. Play this, hear it all, the tripping of the piano, bits of random instruments being thrown in there. I love it. I think you'll have a lot of fun time. You'll have a really good fun time exploring the album and listening to it.
Or not.
Yeah, or not. Yeah, it's a little bit like a junk shop where you go in there, you don't know what you're going to find, and you can always find a gem.
You can always find some junk.
Well, exactly, and it is that type of album. You can really polarize opinions on it.
Just to remind people, not to remind people, just to let people know that Simon Jeffs was in fact so popular that he always had a second job.
Always, yeah. This is not a man whose career lifted him up and away to live in richness and buy a house in the south of France.
No, that's right.
Look, but he did have to do some of his other jobs, inverted commas, were musical. He worked with Joe Strummer on the early work by the 101ers, which was Strummer's band before The Clash.
Right.
Malcolm McLaren discovered him and thought that he'd do like he did with anybody and suck the life out of him. He did the strings arrangement on Sid Vicious's version of My Way.
Now there's a claim to fame.
There's a claim to fame, which that's an awesome song. You know the song, don't you?
I do.
Yeah, it's so much fun. Yeah, not Frank Sinatra's version, but in any way, shape or form.
No.
But the strings are really, really nice, and that's part of what I like about it. The fact that everything is so perfect. And then you got Sid Vicious sings.
Sid Vicious singing is different.
It's a bit of a problem, isn't it?
It is.
So, Penguin Cafe Orchestra. I'd heard of them in passing. I'd heard the name and thought, what an interesting name for a band, what an interesting name for an album. Not interesting enough for me to go and follow it up too much, but I had heard of it in passing. You found it, forced me to listen to it, and I'm really glad you did. Thanks, Jeff. It was great.
And I think that Simon Jeff's son still actually drags the music and dusts it off every now and again and performs it live.
Why?
For people to enjoy, much like yourself.
Yeah.
So anyway, let's move on, shall we, Mick? Why don't you give us a bit of a rundown on that great Aussie band, Split Enz?
Yeah. For an Aussie band, they were remarkably fond of touting their associations, touting their New Zealanderishness.
Yeah, I know, I don't understand that, but anyway.
Yeah. They were formed in 1972 in Auckland. As Split Enz, ENDS, which they later changed in 74 to Enz, ENZ. Probably had a more artistic sound to it.
It would have.
In the APRA, the Australian Performing Rights Association, has created... it's a thin list. The top 100 New Zealand songs of all time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Dave Dobbin's in there, I dare say.
Yeah, I would say so. Yeah. Dave Dobbins, Crowded House. Anyway, they had 8 songs in that list. They clearly dominated it, and rightly so. Split Enz played their last show in 1984 in Auckland, New Zealand. So it was start and finish.
Yep.
It's a cycle.
That's right.
They've reunited on occasions, and it's not about when did they do that and what were the dates, but probably half a dozen times since they broke up in '84, which, God forbid, more than 40 years ago. Oh dear.
Yeah, I know.
And then now here we are in 2026, and they're doing a huge tour. Australia, New Zealand, and the ticket prices are far more than they could ever have charged in their entire life.
And they're adding dates on all over the place.
And they're selling them out, it's fantastic. The band is beloved in Australia. You talk to any Australian about Split Enz and they'll be able to at least tout out one song for you. Probably not as successful in other parts of the world. I think some of the vestiges of Split Enz, Tim and Neil Finn, for instance, have gone on to greater success elsewhere in the world. But Split Enz was the springboard to allow that to happen.
Yep.
Many people talk about Split Enz as a band put together by the Finn brothers, but that's not accurate, not in any way.
No.
Tim was born in 52. Neil was born in 58. And the band formed in 72 when Neil would have been 14. Now, it's not unheard of for a 14-year-old to appear in a rock and roll band, but pretty much unheard of. They just don't have the experience, the life skills, all of that sort of gear. Neil joined at 18, so Tim had the band running for 4 years anyway before Neil came along and joined as a tentative teenager. Crowded House was only formed when Split Enz broke up.
Yep.
Yeah, so...
and the final album that Split Enz ever made had a brand new drummer, Mr. Hester.
Indeed, who then left with Neil to form Crowded House.
Indeed.
Yeah. That band was going to be called the Mullanes, which just happens to be Neil Finn's middle name. They're a very traditional family with some of their naming and the things that they do and love and experience. But the Mullanes, and I'd often wondered where that came from. But it's Neil Mullane Finn.
Great name.
It is, yeah.
Great name. But way back at the beginning, most people wouldn't really even been aware of the first two albums of Split Enz compared to their latter discography.
They weren't really big. First two, first three, first four albums. Not until True Colours did they become really, really an Australian tip-of-the-tongue name.
But if you listen to the first two albums, it bears no resemblance to the Split Enz they became.
Absolutely, they as we do, we love their early stuff, you know. And you can see the formation of their later poppy boppy style. And I don't say that as an insult. Yeah, often it can be, you know, they're too poppy and boppy. But Split Enz managed to retain their credibility all the way through that, whilst making music that was very popular across a whole range of demographics, a little like REM.
That's right. However, way back there are, I've read quite a few reviews of their first album where people compare it favourably to Genesis' early work.
Oh, absolutely. You and I were big fans of their first album, Mental Notes, and I can recall when you and I were talking about when we were teenagers way back in the last century.
Back in the day.
Century, yeah, not like today. Yeah.
When we were young'uns.
Yes, exactly. They released an album called Mental Notes. We thought that album was just awesome because it was totally off kilter. Nothing on that album was going to get played on the radio, which we just thought was terrific.
No, it didn't really. It didn't rate anything. It was nothing really. But it did have an awesome cover, and it was what year did it come out? 1974, was it? Five.
Yeah.
It did actually win an award for the best cover of 1975. I assume it was an Australian award, but it was actually a painting by Phil Judd. Which
is really interesting because that set the tone for all of their album covers. Any pictures of them on later album covers, Frenzy, for instance, had them. You know, Frenzy was also a painting by their lighting director, and every band member was in the painting in a different colour shirt.
Yes.
Yeah, so colour and image was very important to the band right from the start.
And the interesting thing about that album was that there was Mental Notes, and then I know you're going to go on and talk about this, but they then re-recorded it in England, and in Australia that album became Second Thoughts, but in overseas it was called Mental Notes.
It's confusing.
And Philip Judd redid the cover for Mental Notes Overseas edition and took the hair off his head because he had become bald. So the cover of the overseas album has the same cover as the Mental Notes in Australia, except he's bald.
Excellent.
He painted his head bald.
As you do. Yeah. Don't you pick on people with hair loss.
I don't think he had hair loss. I think he had well, on the first album he had a full head of hair, and the second album he had none. I got a feeling that it didn't fall off in 12 months.
Yeah. I think Phil struggled.
Yes, but nonetheless, those first two albums were Finn and Judd, and if you look at all the writing credits, it's all Finn Judd.
Yeah, absolutely. If anything, it was Tim Finn's band when they started, you know, with collaboration. One interesting point that I think way back in the day you pointed out to me, it was Phil Judd's voice. It was a very popular trick in the 70s to have something playing on the run out on a loop. So for those of you who are too young to remember records and styluses and stuff, you put the stylus onto the record and it would run through a groove, which the vibrations on that groove would give you the sound. Now, what a lot of bands did as a little oral trick, AURAL trick, was to finish the final loop on a point where it never went anywhere else and just kept looping around, and you could have something repeating ad infinitum until you lifted the stylus. And it had Phil Judd saying, "Must make a mental note."
Must make a mental note. Must make a mental note. Must make a mental note.
Somewhat like that.
And Phil's vocals were very jarring. They were quite jarring vocals in that first album.
Oh, yeah.
As in and Tim Finn's were very, I don't know, they were almost anxious, anxious vocals, and I don't know what's the word for it.
I think that works because when you look at their history, and we'll come to it in a moment, both of them had mental issues later on. Yeah, Phil Judd more so. But Tim suffered from anxiety and suffered panic attacks through his career.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, so that was that was very perceptive of you, Jeffrey.
Oh, thank you so much.
Well done.
Smart. Smart.
Yeah, so they're in New Zealand and then in Australia playing these quirky, jerky type songs, and they came to the attention of Phil Manzanera of Roxy Music, who, funnily enough, used to play quirky, jerky songs as a leading fashion leader in music in the UK, and they were very, very, very new and very different. So Phil got in touch with Split Enz and offered to produce some work for them, and that work turned out to be basically, let's re-record Mental Notes, give it that Roxy Music gloss, and see what we can do with it. On paper, a marriage made in heaven, and certainly Second Thoughts, as that album came to be known, got a lot of positive reviews. And, lots of people thought it was great, and in fact, we thought it was pretty good too. But being teenagers, trying to establish our own music perception cred, we thought that they'd smoothed it out too much. They'd taken all the rough edges off Split Enz. Yeah, and people say, well, what's the connection between Roxy Music and Split Enz musically? Well, on Roxy's second album, they had a song called In Every Dream Home a Heartache, which was a love song to a blow-up sex doll.
Yes.
So, there's some connection there, yeah.
The interesting thing, and of course they have their song "Stranger Than Fiction," which is a fairly edgy song that would never get onto any top 40 chart by any stretch of the imagination. And
good play on Double J though.
They had two songs on the album which were long, such as "Stranger Than Fiction" and "Under the Wheel." "Under the Wheel" was Phil Judd doing the vocals, and "Stranger Than Fiction" was Tim Finn. But it was the re-recording of "Stranger Than Fiction" that worried you the most, I remember.
Yeah.
And in your view, sort of taming it, if for want of a better term.
Yep.
However, I will say that one of the problems they had with the first album was it wasn't recorded that well. So audionically, is that a word?
I like it. Let's use it.
It wasn't that great an album. So, but the songs they did re-record, they actually recorded in a real big studio in England, and had all the engineers and all that sort of stuff. So that "Stranger Than Fiction" song, I was just telling Mick just the other day, I listened to an Eddie Rayner mix of it, where he's gone and got all the tapes out of the UK one and has mixed up this fantastic version of the song, and really brought in some of the instruments that they recorded that were put, and it was actually, there was a lot of stuff that was put down in the mix that you sort of thought, it's sort of taken the edge off it, but it was all there, but it's just down in the mix. Yeah. And so Eddie Rayner's, if you want to find it, Split Enz have just released a box set of Mental Notes, and I think there's like 5 records in there with like every man and his dog doing their own mix of the songs. It's also available.
It's also on CD.
Probably.
Okay, good.
But what it is basically Mental Notes and Second Thoughts in there, and various mixes of the two albums.
Okay.
Yeah. So, but as I said, the Manzanera mix is probably the worst mix of it. Other people have done better mixes.
Yeah. It's funny that you talk about Eddie Rayner. As I mentioned right at the start, the band is somewhat inaccurately considered by a lot of people as a Finn Brothers consortium, and the two brothers as the key members of the band. But Eddie Rayner, anything that they did that was interesting and innovative, he was right there in the middle of it. You know, the production, the musicality of things, and we'll talk in a minute about what Eddie Rayner did with all their stuff after the band split up.
The thing with Eddie Rayner is, and particularly with the first couple of albums, he bought Mellotron, and which was very unusual and definitely gave the band an unusual sound. So he was very perceptive in producing music that was making that band an unusual band. Clearly, the writing of Finn and Judd was instrumental in those first two albums, and interesting, when they did re-record the first album again, but they changed a lot of songs. There's actually quite a few songs that are different on the second album, and they did actually get a hit out of it, didn't they? Matinee Idol, I think they got a hit out of. That was on the second album, but not on the first.
Yes, yeah.
And they had what else did they have on there? Well, so Walking Under the Wheel wasn't on the second album, which is fantastic, unfortunately. So there was a bunch of songs that wasn't on the second album that was on the first album, but luckily Stranger Than Fiction was still there, which means it got re-recorded, and the tapes are available for them to mix away merrily as they so desire.
Well, that's always a benefit. And again, can we come back to that? Because I just wanted to mention the other important thing about Split Enz. You know, in the fairly staid 70s, Split Enz had as much focus on image as they did on their music. And they were one of only a very few bands here and overseas that focused, you know, that had such a clearly defined original influencing image.
And Noel Crombie was the main powerhouse behind that. He was
another one. The band was full of people with fantastic skills.
And interestingly, Noel Crombie was the percussionist. Now, to say that's a luxury in a rock band is an understatement. Given that
when they had a drummer as well.
But given that he could play drums. In fact, in the last album, he was the drummer. But he didn't like playing drums, so he was the percussionist.
Oh, no.
And we've talked about me seeing them live back at the Bondi Lifesavers many, many years ago. And for the life of me, I could not figure out what the hell was Noel Crombie doing there, apart from playing the trampoline and the maracas. It was just, I think, what are you doing here? Like, it was just, but they looked great because they all had their uniforms on. They all had their hair done magnificently, facial makeup, and these bizarre suits that they used to, and lots of different suits they did over the years.
Absolutely.
And if you remember seeing them on Countdown, many times they always had a different style.
Yep. Yeah, look, Countdown. Countdown was an awful show. Yeah. We loved it, and it was so influential, but really it was awful. And Split Enz added so much colour and life and vibrancy very early to the program. In fact, helped steer it away from being just a vehicle for Molly Meldrum to stumble over the names of bands as he introduced their film clip.
And it was one of those shows where, you know, everybody just mimed their songs. No one ever did them live, but it was very influential, like Top of the Pops in the UK. It was very influential in Australia for up and coming bands.
Absolutely, you know, they mimed their songs, as did everybody. You know, no matter how wild and outrageous the song was, they mimed it, and you know, sometimes bands went up there and mimed the miming, you know, pretended to mime and deliberately mimed the wrong lyrics.
Iggy Pop, we're talking about you.
Oh, dear. He mimed being alive, I think. Yeah. He mimed being sane and not well, but. We talked Michael Jackson was useful to the startup of MTV. Well, look, I'd hazard a guess that the Split Enz, and to a lesser degree Skyhooks, fulfilled the same role for Countdown in Australia. You know, they brought that colour, they brought that life, they brought that manic, dangerous edge to the program.
Yeah.
Do you remember the one where we watched it? And I think I've mentioned it before. It was just so wedged in my mind. The show began inviting artists to be guest hosts, and most of the time, the artist would come on, John Paul Jones would come on and be the host and have craziness going around him, and he'd be the rock of supposed sanity. Well, Split Enz, the whole band became the host. Tim Finn dressed up as a very straight-laced, besuited school teacher, head teacher, and the band were all in their Split Enz costumes and being students and doing the most outrageous things on stage. And Finn's wandering around with his cane and whacking the desk in front of them. It was just... And Noel Crombie was there. I'm not even sure what Noel Crombie was doing, and maybe he wasn't.
We've never quite worked out what Noel Crombie was.
That's right. But that was just an awesome episode. And Finn was berating all of the members. Crombie, what are you doing? That sort of... Really, really... If you ever come across a video or of some sort on YouTube, maybe of Countdown with Split Enz on it, watch it. It will just blow your mind. You cannot believe how weird this particular thing was.
Yep. But they went on. I mean, we've spent probably far too long on their first two albums because realistically, it's their latter albums that turned them into the international success that they were.
Well, very true, very true. The one, and that was True Colours, about 1980.
Massive album.
Yeah, massive album. But the one before that, really, it's a bit like Hunky Dory and Ziggy Stardust for David Bowie. Frenzy was a hit, but not a big hit, right? But it had some great songs that are still renowned, still identified as Split Enz songs. You know, these Split Enz songs today.
I was going through some of the back catalogue over the last week, and I suddenly realised I actually never owned all of their albums, but I knew the vast majority of the songs.
Of course,
they were just so big.
Yeah,
Dysrhythmia is a great album.
It is. Yes,
it's a great album.
I mean, you can name any one of their albums, and you'll find stuff on there that really is very, very clever, very well done, and very appealing musically.
But True Colours probably was their pinnacle as far as a money-making album was concerned. I think there was probably 3 singles off that album. That would have
absolutely.
been. It was a massive album, massive songs on there, and this is still mostly Tim Finn as the writer. Mostly Tim Finn. Neil Finn had started doing he was singing a couple, writing a couple, but really Tim Finn was the driving force there.
Absolutely,
and remains so.
Yeah. Can I just go back to Frenzy for a moment?
Sure.
Because you talked about the crap quality of recording of their first album. That was something that wasn't an isolated incident. Frenzy also had top grade musicianship. The playing on all the songs on Frenzy was just so good. Tim focused more on the music on that album, and in fact the cover, a painting of them all in different colour shirts, but it was them in ordinary shirts in front of a shearing shed. Obviously,
yes.
There's another New Zealand connection. But it had a technical problem that you don't hear of these days. The sound quality was impacted by either, and they've never quite worked it out, either bad tape stock, which was fairly common because they would reuse tape stock because it was pretty bloody expensive, right? Or misalignment of the tape machines used for the recording.
Is that right?
So when Eddie Rayner went back to remix Frenzy, because he said, he's a picky bastard, he went back to remix it, and he had to do so much more work to bring it up to consistent forward, backward, all of that sort of thing.
Wow.
So there was a lot more work to bring.
It's interesting.
And the key song on Frenzy, there's lots of songs on Frenzy that I love, but I See Red. Yeah. I see red, I see red. It's probably the most rollicking of Split Enz's songs. And Neil and Tim play it regularly, even today, when they play together, and they have done that. We'll touch that in a moment. I mentioned a while back, a couple of episodes back, that I saw Crowded House's last concert on the forecourt of Sydney Opera House, where Tim Finn was a guest, a special appearance, and they did bloody I See Red.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Was that their true last concert, or was there another one?
I think there might be another one. If Neil can find his way out of Fleetwood Mac and everywhere else that he's playing.
That's right. Yes, interesting. But overall, they were a massive band, and it wasn't until their last album where Tim decided to leave the band because to pursue his solo career. That Neil actually started stepping in more into the writing, and I think the majority of the album. So, the album was. They basically made a decision. Neil was very upset about saying, "I'll take over the band." He didn't really want to do that.
Yeah.
Because in
It's his brother's
it's
band.
his brother's band.
Yeah.
But Tim said, no, just do it. So they basically made a decision that everybody would write one song on the album. So basically Neil wrote most of the songs on the first album, and there was a melange of other songs written over on the second half of the album, and of which Noel Crombie wrote one song. Probably shouldn't have bothered. And as we said, Paul Hester joined the band for the final album because Noel Crombie didn't really want to do drumming anymore.
Yeah.
And so he joined the band, and the rest is history. Never repeats, but maybe it did.
And what a great name for a single! What a great name for one of the top-selling singles of a band called Split Enz.
Yeah, great band. But look, I do have to mention that Phil Judd was and is a bit of a nutter.
Oh, mad as
a cut snake. I think he actually has bipolar disorder. But he did actually. I mean, those first two albums are really, as I said, a Phil Judd and Tim Finn creation.
Yep.
But as he got older, he did get into. He's done a lot of painting. He's exhibited at the Victorian Art Gallery. But he did get picked up for stalking young children. So bit of a dodgy character in his old age. But he did it. He still believes that he didn't do anything wrong, and that he was just a bit of a silly old man, and had a few too many drinks. But the judge thought that in fact he was stalking girls. So
yeah,
bit of bother.
It's a bit of a problem, and it's hard to know. I mean, you're always tempted to give the benefit of the doubt to somebody, but that's not really an area where you want to give too much benefit of the doubt.
Nah, not a lot. So anyway, yeah. So nonetheless, what a great band.
Yeah, exactly.
Anything else you want to mention about Split Enz before we move on, mate?
There is so much about Split Enz. I mentioned Eddie Rayner again.
Oh, yeah.
When the
you
band...
didn't talk about what Eddie Rayner did after the band finished.
Yeah. Now, the band split up, and so Eddie Rayner looked at this canon of songs that they've got and said, I can do something with this. So he formed ENZSO, which is Split Enz played by a symphony orchestra, and using current successful singers to present the songs with a symphony orchestra background. They made 2 albums, both very successful.
Wow.
Including Dame Kiri Tikanawa.
Jesus, really?
New Zealand's sort of opera singing...
Premier opera singer.
Equivalent to Dame Joan Sutherland.
Yeah.
And so I think that's really a piece of understatement when he says, I think those songs had more to give. So, really, really good. I think it's interesting, we're talking about how they were cute, and cute as in, sort of very smart with their lyrics and smart with their... and we've got stuff that I'm going to drop here that, because we've run out of time, haven't we, talking about Split Enz? But Split Enz, when they started, they appeared in 1973 on a New Faces type program.
Did
in New
they?
Zealand, as Split Enz with the D.
Oh, really?
They made it to they won their round,
Yeah.
but at the following round, where you sort of compile a few winners and they all compete against each other, the judge, a fellow by the name of Phil Warren, whose name shall ever be damned to infamy, complained that they were too clever.
What? Too clever?
Too clever, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't understand.
Yeah, no, clearly he didn't either. And I wonder how many times his words have been played back to him.
Yeah, because he's obviously too fucking stupid. What a knob. Mind you, they were probably they could have been playing something a little bit weird.
They could have been playing Stranger Than Fiction or something in its original incarnation.
Yeah. And if you remember back to some of their early film clips, they were very sort of Playhouse sort of looking, some of them, weren't they? 1940s style looking,
Absolutely, yeah.
lovey-dovey, and some of those sorts of things were very much like that.
Yep, absolutely.
They had a style, and they had a lot of style.
Yep.
When you think about it, they were one of the greatest Australian pop bands ever. They were compared...
using pop in its proper way, which is popular music, not crap that they play on the commercial radio.
But they were a great pop band. they were also referred to a great band in the same vein as Genesis. That is a
That's a big rap for me, isn't it? Yeah.
It's an eclectic group. It's an eclectic group that's gone from humble beginnings to strength over time.
And legendary strength. They are well regarded as one of Australia's and New Zealand's greatest exports. Now,
my next door neighbour was a Kiwi, and
he was.
Yeah,
apparently they stay that way forever.
They don't change. But she was playing. She was actually playing Crowded House. I said, "Great Aussie band." She goes, "They not to New Zealand."
I
I
said,
said,
something in the water.
And I said, "But 2 out of 3 of them were Australian."
Exactly.
Good fun.
Got lots here about 6 months in a leaky boat and their affinity for New Zealand and so on. We might save that for a special Bits and Bobs episode later on.
Great idea.
Yeah. So
plenty of stuff to talk about Split Enz. So we won't lose it.
the playlist's going to be great. It's going to have all of the songs that we
You can
intended
just
to
do-
mention in this episode but didn't get a chance.
But it was still good fun.
Absolutely.
We wish you all the best, and may Godspeed with all of you.
Good night.
Well, folks, that's a wrap. Thanks for listening. Don't forget to subscribe. And if you're enjoying this, tell your friends about us.